Start off by drawing a square on your page. If the square is bigger, it will look like the viewer is further into the room. If the square is smaller, it looks like the viewer is further away in the scene. We're going to need to draw two lines that extend towards the edges of your page. Those two lines need to go through the center of your back wall, your square. Make sure the corners are lined up nicely, as this is going to be where we're going to put our vanishing point. So what I need you to do is I need you to rub away the lines and just add a small vanishing point in the center. Make sure that you rub away the lines and not the vanishing point. We're going to start off by drawing a door to the right of your scene. So I'm going to put my tip on the vanishing point and I'm going to draw a small top of a door, which is around 3 centimeters. Here it is really important that you use very straight vertical lines so that your scene and your door looks like it is being drawn in perspective. Rub away these lines so it looks like that is an open door that can be walked into. And the next thing I'm going to do is to add some thickness to the door so it looks like it has an edge, or the edge of a wall. Again, making sure that my lines are nice and straight and the thickness of the wall is up to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my ruler right there and I'm going to add a line which is going to give me the illusion of that back wall continuing and there being a room where you can enter through that door. Now, drawing picture frames and drawing signs or any kind of other rectangle or square decorations is easy when it comes to drawing on this back wall. All you need to do is draw your rectangle shape or your square shape to create an object. I'm going to add a small window on the back of my wall and I'm going to make sure it has a frame so it looks like a real window that has a ledge on it. Very carefully make sure the thickness of your frame is the same around each area. Now, when it comes to doing picture frames on the side wall, you need to be making sure that your ruler, the tip goes on the vanishing point and that you draw these lines at a slight angle. As you can see, the top of the picture frame goes up a lot more and the bottom is relatively straight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to divide my shape that I've just drawn into two so I can have two picture frames. I've used two little dashes and I'm going to rub away the marks there where they are not needed anymore. I'm going to add thickness to the frame by drawing a small diagonal line going downwards, a vertical line there at the bottom and another line going up. This makes it look like my frame is sitting off the wall and is a real 3D object. After I've done that, I'm going to do one frame and the same technique will be applied to the frame next to it. So I'm going to draw one frame and I'm going to keep my ruler and draw the same frame next to it. Next, I'm going to also do another wall of frames. So vanishing point, the ruler, the tip, constantly making sure that we're using that tip so we can draw things in perspective. Tilt it downwards so it gets smaller or a diagonal edge. And we want two straight vertical lines going up. Now for this wall, I wanted to have 3 picture frames. So you can see I've added 4 marks so that I can divide that shape into 3 individual picture frames. Trying to make sure that they're all the same by making sure that my lines are vertical and straight. And the same technique applies, but this time that line is slightly more straighter than the other one. And that line at the bottom there is straight. Same technique needs to be applied for the other picture frames as well. So I'm going to do the same thing, a straight line there, straight line there for the other frame. I'm going to rub away the unnecessary marks, which you need to be doing constantly. And I'm going to draw a line in the middle there. Another vertical line is going to go there and upwards, repeating the process again. And just as before, I'm going to add a picture frame edge. So my line's going up straight. Again, you notice even though I'm doing the picture frame edges, the lines are going towards the vanishing point. Those are your orthogonal lines, and they always need to go towards the vanishing point. So any line that is going upwards should be going towards the vanishing point. All diagonal lines need to go towards the vanishing point. So this technique can be used to create sort of a large space on your floor where some artwork could go into it, which houses your artwork. It could also be used for a table or for a plinth. Now, a plinth in the art world is a box which houses your artwork. So your artwork goes on top of it. It's normally white and it's a big box so that when people are walking, they don't have to bend down to see the artwork. So it's a really big box that people can put their artwork on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do sort of a glass plinth for some artwork that people could walk by and almost touch if there wasn't an alarm going off to stop thieves from taking the artwork. Again, ruler is on the vanishing point, and you can see that I'm trying to make sure that both sides look even. So both sides of that glass box need to have the same amount of space. So the space towards the wall and the space towards the door, and the shapes that makes need to be even, so it looks like it is an actual object. So what I have done there is I have done the base right there with some straight vertical lines. I'll make sure that's 100% correct again, so just double checking to make sure that's correct using the rubber where you need to. And now I'm going to do the glass that stands off the base so it looks 3D. So again, you notice using the ruler for the straight vertical lines, the straight horizontal lines, and where it comes to these orthogonal lines now, or after I draw this, I will be using my ruler. But what I've decided to do here is I've decided to add some artwork. So what I want you to do is I want you to look at your sheet and think about kinds of artwork you could add in your art gallery that it looks like people would want to come and see some fantastic art. So I'm going to do sort of a sculpture here. And at this point here, I'm going to put my ruler on the vanishing point, and you can see I'm joining the lines. So I've got the corners lined up nicely, so it looks like those are wires that could be enclosing my artwork together. Or it could be glass, depending on what you want as the viewer, or as the drawer, the artist, I should say. Now the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is to obviously make this look more like an art gallery. I'm going to ask you to add some artwork in your picture frames. Now I'm just going to do some very simple patterns, some circles and some triangles. This works well because it makes the frames look correct. So if you do draw something straight and not having it looking like it's supposed to be in a frame, so maybe at an angle, you do notice that it won't look correct. So I started off drawing an eye here, but I rubbed it out and thought actually it'd be better if I just did some circles because it makes the angles look correct. If I just use normal circles in my picture frame. So I do some squiggly patterns. And originally here I decided to do some line patterns, but later on I decided to rub them out. So at the moment you can see some line patterns, but later on I did change them. For this one here I decided to do some really interesting abstract triangles and a sort of a mosaic effect in art. It's what we call patterns and things that are put together in an abstract way, little fragments of shapes. Now the last thing that I need to show you how to draw is I wanted to make a skylight. So the same process applies as to everything you've drawn in an art gallery. Straight horizontal lines, vertical lines or orthogonal lines drawn using the vanishing point. So you can see I've done the shape there. Here I have done a line that represents the top of one of my skylights, and I've added a horizontal line there and an orthogonal line here to add some thickness to the skylight. So this looks like the edge of the skylight. So it looks like a piece of glass, it looks like some depth to it, so it looks like we have to go up a bit to get into the skylight. And I want to add one more skylight here with my ruler and my pencil. Same process applies. How do you get the thickness? Now a lot of this is going to be down to you and how you use the techniques I've shown you in this video. I'm going to decide to also put some tags underneath my artwork so that we know the name of the art and who created it. So using my vanishing point once more. And one more tag, again using the tip of my ruler to get the tags drawn in perspective. It's easy to want to just rush this bit and to draw it the way you think it should look, but always using that vanishing point is needed so that everything again looks like it has been drawn in perspective. One more tag there at the bottom of this artwork, and for the last artwork I decided to not put anything in there. I tried it and it didn't quite look correct, so I decided to rub it out a bit later to just have one tag for that artwork there. Okay, now when it comes to your colouring, I want you to use heavy pressure to apply darker areas. So on a picture frame, the edges of your picture frame will be darker because there's less light reaching it because it is further away from the sun. So I've got one colour of brown and I've just used a harder pressure for the edge. Here you can see a different colour brown, but I've used the same technique where I've pushed really hard on the edges to make it look like my frame is standing off. Here I'm just going to apply a brown colour to finish my floor. And as it is glass, I can draw over certain sections. The last thing to say would be to make sure that after you finish colouring each area, that you go over your pencil marks again. When you apply colour pencil over normal pencil, it dampens the original pencil. So it makes the original pencil less visible. So what you want to do is what you'll be seeing me do throughout the course of this video is to go back over your colour pencil lines with pencil where there needs to be. So right here you can see me making these lines much more visible. Okay, so once everything has been drawn and you've coloured over it, you will need to go back over it with that original pencil to bring out those shapes. From this point onwards, it will be me just colouring so you can see the final piece right at the end.